made possible by the generous support of the Ultimate Players Association and Gaia Ultimate Sports. Sarasota, Florida. To this quiet Gulf Coast city have come over 300 of North America's premier Ultimate Frisbee players to compete in the Ultimate Players Association Club National Championships. For the next 4 days, the top 16 teams from 5 geographic regions will try to prove they are the best on the continent. But their greatest challenge may be answering the question, what exactly is this sport?
You can tell right away, boom. Somebody says Frisbee, you just see it on their face.
Ultimate Frisbee? Huh? What's that? Ultimate? What's that? What are y'all doing?
Ultimate. Really?
Most of the time I tell people as little as possible.
Sometimes I just say soccer. So is that with the dog? And you're kind of like, no.
Dog.
Is there a dog?
Dog.
With the dogs.
Dogs.
You know, the biggest question is, what are you gonna win?
And you gotta be broke.
Hey, I made $50 one time.
Stone cold broke, because you gotta pay for everything.
My mom's been bugging me to quit this sport for a long, long time.
No, they don't understand.
You still playing that damn sport, Jonathan? If I explain the sport, I explain dimensions,
About the size of a football field with 2 end zones.
number of players,
7-on-7.
offense, defense.
One team throws the disc on a kickoff,
Kind of like football.
called a pull. The receiving team catches it and tries to advance it upfield by throwing passes to each other.
It's kind of like lacrosse, kind of like basketball.
Once a pass is thrown and caught, the receiver has to stop and establish a pivot foot.
Score.
The object is to score a goal, and that's like throwing a touchdown in football. However, it's only worth 1 point.
Goal.
If the defense knocks it down or intercepts it, or if the offensive person drops it, then it's a turnover. Offense becomes defense, defense becomes offense, and we're going the other way with everything. There are 3 basic kinds of throws: the backhand, a forehand. You also have overhead or hammers. Slight variation on that is a scuba, which is kind of more of a flip pass. Officiating is done by the players themselves. A play will happen on the field. The 2 players will try to work it out. They can't, and then they go to the observer. The spirit of the game probably dictates that spiking the disc isn't proper etiquette, but you've got to let the kids have their fun.
As the tournament began, all eyes were once again turned towards Dog, or Death or Glory, out of Boston. The reigning national and world champion, Dog has come here to claim their 7th consecutive UPA championship, something no Ultimate team has ever done. This year, however, several clubs spent the offseason developing new strategies and recruiting star players from other cities to counter Boston's domination. One of these super teams looked like the best bet to finally end Dog's dynasty. the end of day 2, the field was torn neatly in half, with 8 squads stepping down, and the other 8 moving on to the quarterfinals. The first quarterfinal matchup pitted Ultimate's Juggernaut against a team looking for respect. Already the most celebrated dynasty in Ultimate, Boston's Dog refused to bask in their glory and continued their streak of never having lost a game at Nationals. Fielding a team whose birthdays spanned the Eisenhower administration to the Reagan years, Boston didn't let a generation gap inhibit fresh ideas at practice.
We line up according to different things, and it started with line up oldest to youngest, and that was sort of a goof, and we play old and young at practice. But then we're lining up richest to poorest, smartest to dumbest. We're lining up most recent sexual encounter.
Minnesota's Sub-Zero was back at Nationals with something to prove. In the last 4 Nationals, Sub-Zero had an 0-13 record against the top-seeded teams.
We have a lot of confidence against every team we play against. We feel like we're as athletic and as talented as any team.
Sub-Zero had beaten Dog earlier this year at Chicago's tune-up tournament, and now they hope to do it again.
We're going to go out there and we're going to beat these guys. The sideline's going to get filled because rumors going to spread that Sub-Zero's on the verge of knocking Dog off.
Thawed by the Florida sun, Sub-Zero came out with a 1-2 punch of D and O, and it looked like this might be a game. But Dog, hardened by their 1918 victory over Sweden for the World Championship 2 months earlier, were not about to roll over now. With a roster including a 42-year-old veteran, a 10-time national champion, and a young star fresh off a college, national, and world championship, Dog prolonged Sub-Zero's frustration at Nationals and advanced to their 7th semifinal in as many years. Next up was a bi-coastal matchup of the hometown favorite against a West Coast institution. After finishing second at the last 2 Nationals, the Santa Barbara Condors were back with a vengeance. Already known for their aggressive offense and stingy defense, the Condors descended on Florida this year with a focus sharpened by having fallen just short of the national title.
The Santa Barbara Condors are the only team here that's not calling subs. You gotta know your role, and you go in the game when it's your turn. And the fact that we can do that at Nationals when everybody here is so hungry to play, shows how well we all get along.
Bucking the trend of catchy names at Nationals, Team Florida opted for simplicity. A fusion of players from Gainesville and Miami, Team Florida was this year's Cinderella story, surprising opponents with an innovative defensive zone. Using a 4-man cup that leaves the offense no place to turn, Team Florida upset higher seeds on their way to the quarterfinals. But Santa Barbara was unimpressed by the Florida defense and pierced through the zone with remarkable patience. Sensing an end to their fairy tale run, Florida desperately tried to keep the game close. But the Condors always had an answer, scoring every time they touched the disc. Santa Barbara's success would not be without cost, however, as Captain Greg Husak went down with a broken collarbone. Undeterred, the Condors maintained their focus. The clock struck midnight for the Florida team, and Santa Barbara glided on to the semifinals to meet their arch nemesis, Death or Glory.
Condors on D. A, B, C, D. Condors!
The third quarterfinal matchup featured 2 next-door neighbors who traveled over 3,000 miles to continue their Pacific Northwest rivalry under fairer skies. After making it to last year's semifinals, this year's Canadian national champions, Vancouver's Furious George, arrived in Florida determined to take the trophy north of the border. Already a team stacked with talent, Furious strengthened their roster in the off-season and dominated every opponent they met in the first 2 days of this tournament. Like their namesake, Seattle's Sockeye made a long, hard journey back upstream to Nationals.
It's an old name. It's been the Seattle team name since 1993. And it's a name of one of the type of salmon that populate the Seattle area.
Sockeye had played in the championship game at Nationals in 1995, 96, and 97, only to lose to Boston each time. Despite a 2-year absence from this tournament, Sockeye remained a dangerous and respected opponent.
Sockeye has made us the team that we are today.
Sockeye came out looking hungry, while Furious George was forced to contend with the loss of star defensive player Mark Saraglia to a broken sternum. The contest heated up, and it wasn't long before this fight for survival boiled over.
The 7 guys that are on, clamp it down. Clamp it down like they've never seen before. Like, bam! Fucking notch higher, guys.
You want to take it a notch higher? I'll give you a reason to. They fucking carted off one of our own. One of our own in a fucking ambulance. You do it for Mark, all right? You do it for Mark. Bring it up a fucking notch, and when you get it, it's for Mark.
As Johnny G gave new meaning to the name Furious, Vancouver virtually owned the second half. The Furious defense held Sockeye to only 2 more points, while their offense wasted no time in putting this year's rivalry to bed. When it was over, cooler heads prevailed. An international crisis was averted, and Furious was back in the semifinals.
This is the dream, right? This is why we play Ultimate. This is why we can practice for like the last God knows how long, is to play tomorrow. Your whole Ultimate career is one game right now. It's the next game we play.
The last quarterfinal paired 2 regulars at Nationals whose performance hasn't always matched their potential. After losing in quarterfinals last year, North Carolina's Ring of Fire was back, looking to refocus their strengths into a semifinal berth. With white-hot talents, Ring was a feared opponent, but their sizzling tempers created a reputation that preceded them.
Yeah, I mean, I just like to compete everything I do. It's just in the middle of the game where I come like that. Kind of puts the team in a bad light and stuff. Wish it didn't happen that way.
Joining the Nationals cast again was San Francisco's Jam. After an untimely exit in last year's quarterfinals, Jam didn't spend the year licking their wounds. Instead, they recruited veteran players and prepared themselves with a rigorous practice schedule.
Playing on a team like this that practices as much as we do, it's like having a second job.
When you play against the same guys, because we do have an O and a D team, throughout the year, you kind of get tired of playing against those same guys, and so we're really psyched to be able to take all our aggression out on the opposing teams here instead of ourselves.
With their aggression now squarely targeted on North Carolina, Jam jumped ahead with an early lead. Against the ropes, Ring regrouped at halftime and emerged with fires newly stoked. As Ring pulled the game back within reach, Jam began to have flashbacks of last year's quarterfinal letdown. But Jam had worked too hard and refused to let history repeat itself. Ring looked to hold on, but victory slipped through their fingers. As Jam pulled away, it seemed that they could do no wrong. In fact, it even appeared there might be a higher power at work.
Did I just fucking see that?
In the end, Jam carried their flag on to the semis, while Ring was left to smolder for another year. The demise of last year's Rogue All-Star Club Blaze of Glory left a pool of highly skilled players without a team. No one took better advantage of this windfall of talent than West Coast rivals Furious George and Jam.
Blaze was a pickup team. We never practiced. We had a lot of talent. We actually didn't really live up to our potential, but we had a lot of fun. I enjoy playing with this team so much more because there's just a buy-in, there's a commitment level.
In addition to defensive guru Jonathan Gewirtz, Furious also imported veteran Sockeye star Greg Shiring. San Francisco's Jam also deepened their lineup with lightning-fast handler Chris Hayden, or Toaster, and KG veteran Josh Faust.
Josh has actually been a really great leader for us this year. He's developed a good offensive strategy. And we don't know if other teams are starting to pick up on it, but it's called Plinko.
A customized version of the give and go, Jam's Plinko offense attempts to confound conventional defenses by working the disc around the field with a blur of short passes. Long before either team revamped their rosters and strategies, however, the tone for this game had been set.
Hasn't been a friendly history.
We're in the same region. We go to all the same tournaments.
These guys just never seem to respect us.
It's a rematch of the regional final.
Our game in regionals was a little gnarly.
They beat us 17-16.
Both teams could beat each other on any day.
Living up to its billing, the game was a point-for-point battle throughout the first half. Furious used their trademark athleticism to full advantage, but Vancouver's defense had problems containing Jam's Plinko assault. Midway through the game, Jam had a 1-point advantage, and more importantly, the momentum.
Hit the open guy, everyone's got to run their asses off, okay? Tire out their team, we're a lot bigger, and we have a lot more fresh legs than them. Let's win the game at this point.
Hey guys, this is our game, right? Then let's go, come on, let's go.
2, 3, oh,
Jam entered the second half with no intention of letting this game slip away.
Yeah, Jam!
Furious tried different defenses, but Jam continued to execute Plinko to perfection.
Yeah, team! Let's go, yeah. Here we go! Here we go!
The end was rapidly approaching for Furious George.
Let's amp up the aggro side of our defense. I want bumping and grinding in the lane. I want hard, flustering the marks. I want legs entangled. I want arms akimbo. Everybody needs to be committed to playing that kind of beat. Come on! 1, 2, 3.
Yes, George! Furious shifted to a straight-up mark to prevent downfield passes, and this time the defense worked. With increasing confidence, the Canadians renewed their deep strike assault. Yeah! It appeared that Furious George was back. The Furious offense went on a feeding frenzy, scoring 6 points, while Jam could only muster 1. With a final chance to get the monkey off their back, San Francisco succumbed to the pressure.
Peter, run! Do not stop running, Pete, run!
Game point, Vancouver. With one last huck, Furious George marched into the finals for the first time.
Stepped up today, every single player on this team, with a huge win. And we ain't done yet. Hey, get yourselves ready for tomorrow. That's the big show.
Though this year it wasn't for the championship, the game to watch was a rematch of the last 2 years' finals. Boston's Death or Glory against the Santa Barbara Condors.
You know, they're going to give us this game, but we have to take it from them. They're going to be afraid to win. But they're good enough that if we don't take it from them, they'll say, okay, well, if you don't want it, we will take it.
Seemingly immune to growing older, Dog remained the team to beat this year, with an offense famed for being sophisticated in its simplicity.
You don't really realize until you play on a team like this how easy it is to get open when everybody's doing the right thing.
The thing about our offense is that it's geared by incredibly basic rules, like take what they give you. You have the advantage, you're on offense. The other guy's like, which way are they going, which way are they going?
Hell-bent on winning the championship, the Condors had been preparing for this chance for almost 365 days in a row, even to the point of obsessing about specific matchups.
We took our personal trainings to the next level. I do a lot of sprints, and I visualize Forge going deep on me. I'm not kidding.
All the visualization exercises in the world couldn't prevent Dog from drawing first blood. Boston's defense stepped up, and their offense took control of the game. Dog's fast start was abruptly halted when the Condor defense began to assert itself. And the Condor offense paid their respects by racking up the points. 6, 8,
Come on, wait, God, damn it!
And on the turn, chip group, shorter stack, patience, and work. Guys, we knew this was going to be hard, and it is.
Come on! Dog amped up the pressure with a surprise switch to a zone defense. Boston's strategy proved effective enough to even the score. But the Condors were undaunted and fired back. Then, with a chance to tie the game, the typically unflappable Boston did the unexpected. Santa Barbara capitalized and went up by 3. But this old dog wasn't out of tricks, and Boston pulled the game back within reach. Dog threw their zone defense at the Condors again, but this year's brand of Condor was unfazed. Then, when it mattered most, Dog slipped again. Taking a page from Boston's book, the poised Condors called a timeout.
Okay, I need some rest. Breathe on me, boys.
This year, it was Boston searching for inspiration.
Right now, White! It is not over! Come on,
5 straight points.
Hungry.
17-15.
Yeah.
This game's over. We're going to walk off this field and people are going to wonder, how do they keep doing it? How does that team keep doing it? What do they have that other people don't have? But you got to believe it. You got to believe it. And you got to do it. You don't get another chance at this. You don't get it.
No. Come on, White. Come on, White.
The galvanized Dog seized control of the disc, but suddenly, the things that worked for Boston in the past couldn't be counted upon today. And now the Condors were within a single point of completing their coup d'etat. But Dog had been in worse situations before, and this was a dynasty built on miraculous comebacks. Game point, Condors.
Nice hit! Come on, Brian, Brian, no line, no line.
Go, James, go, James.
And in the end, we've beaten them once too many times, and they remember it. And in the end, they were stingy like we used to be, and they didn't give us any of those breaks back. So, Condors are to be congratulated.
Soaring again into the finals, the Condors hope to finally take home the championship. But Furious George had already beaten them 2 days earlier in pool play and were back for an encore.
They've got plenty of strengths. They're all tall, they're all fast, they're all gnarly defenders.
They're scrappy guys, great athletes, they got a good deep game. Yeah, those guys are hungry. I like them. It'll be fun. It'll be a good game. We're all looking forward to it.
Two teams, one in black and one in white, both competing for a single goal. The Condors wasted no time putting the first score on the board.
Come on, Furious!
Furious turned to their notorious deep game and established early on what would be a point-for-point tug of war.
What do you say, boys? What do you say?
With the score tied, the Condors fell victim to the Furious D and their own nerves.
Get it back, Ted!
With the Condors skidding out of control, they once again slammed into a brick wall that was the Furious defense. But before Vancouver could capitalize, the first of several controversial calls occurred. On this throw, each player insisted he had caught the disc first. But when a called-on observer ruled in favor of the Condors, Furious was forced to give up the disc. The Condors called a timeout.
Talk to John, please. You guys are losing focus. It's coming in Psalm 5, so go.
Rejuvenated, the Condors gambled on their deep game and began to turn the tables in their favor.
Let's go, defense!
Having given up 4 consecutive points, a battered Furious contemplated how to stem the tide.
Out of your defense, under. Go, tag, tag, tag.
The Condors picked up 1 more point to ensure that the first half was theirs, but the second was yet to be claimed.
This game is ours in the second half.
Yeah.
If we want it more.
Yes!
So where the f are we?
We're here.
first point to the last. We said it at the beginning, and we haven't done it.
Do it for your brothers. Do it for yourself, all right? Let's go. Condors on 3. 1, 2, 3. Come on.
Furious made early mistakes in the second half and gave the Condors a chance to extend their lead.
Not in. No line.
The proud Canadians fought back and kept the game close. Feeding off the offensive attack, the Condors sunk their talons deeper into Furious George. In an apparent tailspin, the Furious offense continued to give away the disc. With the Condors poised to break open the game, another controversial foul call added fuel to already smoldering tempers.
I was on this side, he's on here. He's coming over, you hit me. I catch. That's why I don't mention falling on my ass. Go to the observer, please. You going to me? No foul.
Don't listen. He had position and he got shoved. Ask anybody here.
As the game seemed to be turning against them, Furious fought to maintain their composure. Yellow cards were administered, passions cooled, and Furious focused on getting back into the game. Despite the flurry of calls in this game, Condor Steve Dugan demonstrated that self-officiating was still alive and well in Ultimate. At 14-12, because of the game's extended length, a time cap was called. It would be a game to 16. After giving up 3 straight points, the Condors looked to derail Vancouver's comeback. Though Santa Barbara tried to end the game, the Canadians continued to rally.
Let's go! Come on, D! Come on, D!
Our score to Condors 15, Furious George 15. This is double game point, winner take all.
And now, the whole season had come down to a single point.
Come on, Furious, put it all out!
guys deserve it, man.
We worked really hard this summer, everybody on the team, you know, and going out staying late at night, you know, till like 10 or 11 at the track, like 3 or 4 days a week. Probably being in the championship game 2 times before really helped too.
Pretty appropriate that it went down to the cap. It was, you know, next point wins. And so, hats off to those guys.
It's a hard loss, guys. We're gonna grow from it.
We came out strong. I think we finished strong, but I think we just had a little bit of lack of heart in the middle of the game.
Our runners-up for the 2000 UPA Open Championships, Furious George.
We're keen and hungry, I would say, already to come back and try and win this thing next year, but it'll be a tough road all over again.
Congratulations, fellas. Hell of a year.
Oh my God, this is a dream!
For the Condors, the third time had been the charm, as they flew back to Santa Barbara, the first champions of the new millennium.
But the way to make Ultimate televised is not to get referees and make it go faster, but they have on-field cameras that go out and catch the discussions and the arguments. Oh, that guy, well, he can't throw that well, he doesn't play good defense, but he's great in the arguments.
You guys all get along?
No.
People who play Ultimate would be really psyched if Ultimate was in the Olympics, but the whole rest of the world would be like, Ultimate, ballroom dancing, synchronized swimming.
That is video right there. You know, I wish that name Ultimate would disappear, actually. I think it's kind of, I mean, I know what it means, but I think it's not very descriptive.
What do you call it?
Flat ball.
It's a lot about a lot of other things. Woo! Not getting hit in the face.
We had a lot of early losses, and losses for some reason don't unify a team like they should. 1, 2, 3.
Focus, focus, let's focus.
Hey, Mom. What do you think of your son?
Oh, he's awesome.
What's your biggest motivation as an ultimate player?
This interview is over.